Welcome into the channel. Let's talk some Texans. Plenty to get to here with the Miami Dolphins in town for preseason game number 2 on Saturday. How much will CJ Stroud play? How long should he play in the game? Who else should be playing in this game? And theory that I have about the rushing attack helping out the offensive line. We'll get to all that and so much more, plus your questions and comments throughout the course of the live stream. I'm Cody Stoots. Appreciate everybody tuning in and joining in. I would love a like, the thumbs up button down below. That helps out the channel a ton. A subscription if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And of course, check out Houston Football. There's a link in the description below, the website where I do all my writing. There's always free content on the website. And of course, paid subscribers get everything that the website has to offer. Thank you for watching tonight. If you're watching live, like the people in the chat, and if you're watching this the next day or after the fact, I appreciate you as well. Let's talk about it. It's preseason game number 2. How much longer will CJ Stroud play in this game? I had a theory about CJ Stroud and how much he's going to play in this game, and it stemmed from how the joint practices went. Now, if you read on the site this week, you read that day 1 of the joint practices went really well for the Texans, especially on offense, where they dominated the Miami Dolphins in the red zone, and they were able to score 4 touchdowns in the red zone team period, including 3 Tank Dell touchdowns and a Dalton Schultz one-handed diving touchdown. And you would have heard that the Texans were able to put themselves in a field goal range in the situational period. Well, day 2 was pretty much the opposite of day 1 from the offensive perspective. Everything looked really, really good on one-on-ones and 7-on-7, and then the team period started, and it was a damn disaster most of the time. Now, there was a Nico Collins play at one point. There was a Dalton Schultz play at one point. Robert Woods was successful. It wasn't all bad in the team periods, but it was a struggle on offense in the team periods overall on day 2 of joint practices. So my theory going into this week was if CJ Stroud looks awesome in both joint practices, we might get much of the same when it comes to the game performance. We might get the 2 series and then see you over on the bench. But with these struggles and the struggles of the offensive line, I do believe we're going to get a little bit more from CJ Stroud. It might just simply be a doubling of last week. He might go from 2 series to 4 series. And obviously, if you have a really impressive long series, for instance, 12 plays, 6, 7, 8 minutes worth of clock time, that's as good as 2 or 3 drives sometimes. But if he has 2 unceremonious drives where, let's say, it's 5 downs and they're punting, or it's 6 downs and they're punting, then that may not be enough for the coaches. That may not be enough for me, and it certainly won't be enough for the fans who are showing up for the preseason game. So a quarter-ish of work is what I would do if I was the coaching staff for the Houston Texans with CJ Stroud. And that's about where I believe they could send things to. Because you got to imagine the Dolphins are going to play Tua a little bit. And that's probably an offense that moves pretty quick, though it could find itself in an extended drive. So I don't think you're going to see like 2 drives where it's like tennis, where they're going back and forth, where it's like, 6.5-minute drive, 7.5-minute drive. Next thing you know, it's the second quarter, and each quarterback's only gotten 1 drive. I don't believe it's going to be quite like that when it comes to this game against the Dolphins. I wouldn't say it's going to be necessarily ping pong either. I mean, I don't know that the Dolphins are scoring on 2-3 plays and the Texans are matching them scoring on 2-3 plays. I don't know if it's going to be quite like that either, but 4-5 series to me kind of feels like the sweet spot for CJ Stroud. You got to remember, this is one of the last 3 events, more than likely, where he can play significant reps against an opposing team. And I say events because we don't really know what the 3rd preseason game exactly is going to be or how this team is going to operate from that standpoint. Some teams just totally punt on the 3rd preseason game. Maybe the Texans and this coaching staff with DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick are a little bit different. But if they're like a lot of teams and they just decide to punt on the 3rd preseason game, then there's only 3 events where Stroud can get some significant reps against the other jerseys. That's the Dolphins, Saturday preseason game tomorrow, or today if you're watching it here on Saturday, and it's the 2 joint practices against the New Orleans Saints, which, by the way, I'll be in person live attending, providing updates on Twitter, as well as updates on the site, Houston Football. You can subscribe down below in the description. So there's only 3 events for him to get live reps against an opposing team. Only one of those is a game, which is the game against the Dolphins. And yes, I understand that the joint practices are very important and the quarterbacks can get a lot of work. But you know what the quarterbacks can't have happen? They can't get hit in practice, okay? When a guy comes in and tags the quarterback for a sack, they get to finish the rep and throw the ball to the wide receiver. That doesn't happen on game day. If Bradley Chubb swim moves George Fant and crushes C.J. Stroud, he doesn't get up and throw it to Dalton Schultz. Play's over. Get up, listen to it in the headset, and get it going. I also believe it's really important for some game reps because you're going to need to understand how things work in an NFL stadium if you're C.J. Stroud. Robert Woods and Dameon Pierce this week talked about Stroud going into the playbook, getting deeper into the playbook. And I believe it was Dameon Pierce that said, hey, we're still working with Stroud to get everything out smooth, get everything out clean in the play calls. He knows what he's doing. It's just getting the execution of the play calls clean when he hears it in the headset. Well, NRG Stadium, you should have quite a few fans in the stands. Hopefully they'll be quiet, but if they're not, or they're just excited to see C.J. Stroud, he needs to be able in his headset to hear what it's going to sound like when Bobby Slowick is on the little microphone and he's talking in his headset until it cuts off and he's got to go out there and finish putting the play together. So it's important to get him those reps because you do not get any crowd noise in practice or joint practices. Yeah, you get a little bit over from the fans that were there. And if you got to watch joint practices this week, you probably had a hell of a time, but you don't get real stadium noise. And you have to get used to what it sounds like in a stadium when you've got the headset going in your ear and your offensive coordinators sending the play in. So getting him a few more reps than the Patriots game is going to be really important for not only a variety of reasons, but just game action. Like, he can't play 25 snaps in a game, or 25 snaps over two games in the preseason and then go to Baltimore and take on the Ravens. Like, that's not good enough to me. He's got to play more. And yes, joint practices are important. And I suppose he could play in the 3rd preseason game. I don't expect him to play in the 3rd preseason game. I feel like this is a punt on the 3rd preseason game conversation based on just some of the things DeMeco Ryans has talked about over the course of getting things ready. So he can't have 25, 30 snaps under his belt, and that's it in the preseason. Now, you're not going to play him for a whole damn half like sometimes quarterbacks do back when there was 3 preseason games, and that 3rd preseason game guys would play for like a half. Like, you're not going to do that. But getting him some snaps, getting him some series, and really the big thing for me too is adjust the plan as necessary. You go out there and Stroud looks really good on 2 drives. He leads, say, a field goal drive and a touchdown drive. All right, pack it up, go sit on the sideline, watch Davis and E.J. Perry. I was trying to figure out who the quarterback is because it's not Case. Watch Davis and E.J. Perry operate this thing, learn what you can. If it looks bad for the first couple of drives, get out there till he gets something going. Like, getting him into a rhythm at some point would be awesome to see, as well as if a drive doesn't go well, can he bounce back by just having the time to go sit on the bench with the QB coach, the offense coordinator, and the other quarterbacks and look at the stuff that you see on the iPad and then get back out there as soon as the defense gets the ball back. Okay. Like, can he do that? Does that bounce back happen within a game? That's another element of the preseason and playing him more than a series or 2. Also, if he knows he's only going to get, say, 2 or 3 series, maybe he operates a little bit different in, say, series 3 because he knows it's the last one than he would if he just knew, hey, we're going to adjust. We'll let you know in the game when you're coming out. You don't want him to be like, okay, well, this is it. This is the only series. And then he goes out there and does some things, holds on to the ball a second too long, trying to make the best play instead of making a good play. And he does something that's maybe not characteristic of his play. You don't want that to happen either. So if he struggles, you want to give him an opportunity to bounce back. If he looks good, you take him out, you take the helmet, put the headset on, listen to how this thing goes with Davis in there, listen to the play calls and all that jazz. And if there's some sort of mix, which is kind of what I expect actually, maybe he ends up playing first quarter, a little bit into the second quarter. That's kind of what I would do. And that's ultimately what I expect as well from DeMeco Ryans, Bobby Slowick, and company deciding how long their franchise QB is in the game. Let's get to some of your comments. Then we'll talk about some of the other players that we want to see in this game and what we expect to see out of this game. Lumineer, I think Stroud decides his faith, I think you mean fate. If he's leading a drive, keep him in for a couple of drives. If he fails to lead a drive, take him out early. Yeah, look, there's a little bit of give and take. If it looks really, really bad, maybe you don't want him out there for 3-4 drives where it might look really, really bad. But if he looks good, if he gets him in the end zone on one of the first 2 drives, he may only get 3 drives. Okay? He may only get 3 drives. Jacob, he needs reps. CJ never played with pressure in his face, and this O-line is not as good as currently constructed. Yeah, the O-line has disappointed, certainly in practice to this point. Easy MB, I'm giving him a full quarter and a half to prove to me he can't bounce back from a bad drive or have 2 great ones in a row. Yeah, so if he has a bad one, you want to see a bounce back. If he has a good one, can he have another good one? How does he handle a 3rd and 8 versus a 3rd and 2? Can he get them into the correct play if he sees something, which is something that he did in joint practices. He adjusted at the line of scrimmage and got them into the right play. You hear DeMeco Ryans talk a ton about this game operation. How does he operate the game? Does he manage the offense the right way? That's something that you could use and get a use out of more than just 2 drives in this game. What else we got here? Richard, run game is going to help the passing game. Hopefully, can't wait to have Howard back. So this is another element too. How does CJ Stroud mesh with a rushing attack that's going to be a little bit better than the Patriots one because Dameon Pierce is going to play? We'll get to Pierce and company here in just a second. And how does he use that? And how does that help the team overall and help the offense overall as well? Zadis Q, I would not be shocked if they focused a lot on the short to medium passes a lot with Stroud. I'd love a 2nd and 2. I'd love for Dameon Pierce to get that rock, run it, get 8 yards, and on 2nd and 2, CJ Stroud play actions, pulls it back, and just chunks that sun gun to Nico Collins. Okay, that's what I want. That's what I want the first drive to be. I want it to be a Dameon Pierce 8-yard run, and then I want him to run a play action and chunk it to Nico Collins. That's what I want. So I see a couple of comments about Bryce. They got a field goal drive out of that. I think it's like a 60-yard drive. They got a field goal out of one of them and then a punt. He only played in 2 drives. So hopefully they play CJ Stroud more than 2 drives. All right. Appreciate everybody's comments. Appreciate everybody jumping in. All the kind words. Andres, Turbo Duran, Jonathan, some of the usuals I see in here. Lumineer, Jacob, I haven't seen you before, and if I haven't recognized you. I appreciate you jumping in. Armchair, appreciate you getting in. EB, thank you. Gran Turismo, are you going to the game, Cody? Absolutely, I'll be at the game. Be watching from the press box, be in the post-game interviews, be in the locker room after the game. I believe we'll do locker room after the game. And then I'll have some writing up on the site, and we'll have some videos coming out of the game as well. All right, so we talked about CJ Stroud. HD, appreciate you jumping in. Talked about CJ Stroud, how much he's going to play. What about other players seeing some extended time? So here's my rule for tomorrow. If CJ Stroud's in, the starting offensive line has to be in. That's my rule. That's my rule for tomorrow. If CJ Stroud's in the game, the starting offensive line has to be in the game. What is the starting offensive line? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. It's Kenyon Green at left guard. It's Juice Scruggs at center. It's Shaq Mason at right guard. And it's George Fant at right tackle. Now, if you remember, against the Patriots, only 2 starters in their spots played on the offensive line. Fant played, but he played left tackle. He's not going to play left tackle for this team. That's Laramie Tunsil. Fant is going to play right tackle until Titus Howard is healthy. Howard's in a cast. Last week he was in a brace. This week he's in a cast. That seems like a big and important progression and movement towards potentially being healthy. My good friend Landry Locker swears, even though he's not a doctor, that Titus Howard will be ready for week 1. I believe we'll see Titus Howard week 2. That's a conversation we'll have as that game gets a little bit closer. But as long as CJ Stroud is in, the starting offensive line needs to be in. No Austin Deculus. Okay? No George Fant at left tackle. As long as the starting offensive line is in, or excuse me, as long as Stroud is in, the starting offensive line needs to be in. D'Amico Ryan said Thursday, all of our players will play. I take that to mean if they are healthy, they're suiting up, running out of the tunnel, and going out there and getting some snaps. Now, I know it's probably not easy to convince Laramie Tunsil to play in a preseason game, but my God, do they need Laramie Tunsil at left tackle so they can put George Fant at right tackle, and they can make sure that guys aren't olaying the defender into the quarterback's lap, and you can get some sort of solid baseline for CJ Stroud. Here's another element. You need to get a solid baseline of what this offensive line is capable of doing, both from running the football as well as pass blocking for CJ Stroud. Because let me be real honest with you. They kind of stunk the joint up on Thursday against this Dolphins defense. And you had the starters on the field and they were playing and they still kind of stunk the place up. Raekwon Davis, who is the defensive tackle for the Dolphins, was eating everybody's lunch. He was eating everybody's lunch. Kenyon Green specifically, but he got Juice Scruggs one time. He's a tough block. They're not even going to have Christian Wilkins because Christian Wilkins is holding out because he's in like his contract situation. He's a stud, but Raekwon Davis looked good. Jalen Phillips was flying in off the edge. Bradley Chubb struggled against Tunsil, but when Bradley Chubb rushes from the other side, he had some success. So that is something that I feel like is a must. CJ Stroud's in, starting offensive line needs to be in. Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce said he's playing. He doesn't know how much he's going to play, but he's playing. So Dameon Pierce is going to play. It's important for Pierce to play for a couple of reasons. One, he needs the opportunity. Two, the way Dameon Pierce plays running back, he can't play that way in practice. He's not going to unleash violence on his teammates. And the way that you go about things in joint practices, he's not going to unleash violence on the Dolphins either. But preseason game, he can unleash violence. He can run his style and run his way. And we need to see how he pairs with Devin Singletary. Situationally, do they put Singletary in for passing downs? Is it a certain down and distance that Singletary fits better than Dameon Pierce fits? Goal line carries. Is it only Dameon Pierce? Is there a rotation? How do they operate when Pierce has had a couple of carries? How do they operate when Singletary's had a couple of carries? Like understanding that and getting used to that in a game situation, that's important as well. So I'm excited to see Dameon Pierce, excited to see 3-1 out there throwing folks around like he does so often. As always, I'd like to let you know if you have something that you desperately want to get to, or I missed your question and you definitely want to get my attention, make sure I see it. The super chat is always an option. We'll get to your super chats as fast as possible. Devin has a super chat. Based on the O-line play from Bryce's starters, I'm more at ease about our starters tomorrow, giving CJ time to work. Have a lot more faith with our O-line. It seems like a much more talented offensive line. It certainly is a much more expensive offensive line than what Carolina's put together. You think about Laramie Tunsil, one of the 5 best offensive linemen in all of football. He's on your team. Shaq Mason is one of the better guards over the past couple of seasons. So that's a guy that you seemingly can rely on. Though, I'd like to see a little bit more pass blocking success. Juice Scruggs has looked nice in practice. He only kind of got beat up a little bit. against the Dolphins. Kenyon Green has got to play much better. I mean, he had a moment in the rushing attack, but again, the pass blocking is where I'm worried about Kenyon Green. And then George Fant. Fant should be fine at right tackle. He's not going to be amazing, but he should be fine at right tackle. So I like the chances of this offensive line protecting protecting CJ Stroud. There's a Freudian slip. I like the chances of this line protecting CJ Stroud much better than the line the previous week, and even much better than Thursday in joint practices. Got my my Pepsi Max in the cup tonight. You know, a 12-pack of soda is $8 now. I'm going to have to move to just water. I can't spend $8 on a 12-pack of soda. We'll talk about that a little bit later. As always, if you have a question and I don't get to it, I will try to star some of these questions to make sure that I get to them at the end. Or if I've missed them, please send them again. I try to, as best I can, get to all of the questions. So, offensive line, starters in as long as CJ Stroud's in. Damian Pierce, want to see how he works with Singletary, want to see how he works with the starting offensive line. And I want to see quite a bit of this defense. So, the Dolphins are going to be down starting left tackle Terron Armstead. And he got banged up. He's going to be ready for week 1, it seems, but he got carted off of practice on Thursday. So they're going to be down offensive linemen. Bring some heat. I don't know how much Tua is going to play. I don't believe Tua is going to play a ton. So I'd keep the full starters gambit in there as long as Tua is in there. So that'd be Will Anderson, Jerry Hughes, Malik Collins, Sheldon Rankins, Henry To'o, Denzel Perryman, Christian Harris, Jalen Petrie, Jimmy Ward, Steven Nelson, and Derek Stingley. That'd be the crew I'd have in there as long as Tua's in there. And obviously rotate as you need, rotate as you see fit. You get John Grenard in there. You get some different defensive tackles in there, linebackers as you need. That'd be the crew that I'd have in there as long as Tua's in there. Primarily the starting defense or guys that I expect to start on defense. That's what I would put in there. And I really want to see what Derek Stingley brings to the table after that incredible practice he had on Thursday. If you didn't read the observations or you didn't see some of the tweets or social media posts about it, Derek Stingley was killing everybody on Thursday. He got beat on that first rep that I saw Thursday, and it was kind of a weird play where the wide receiver kind of ran a funky route and Tua sort of threw it to the sideline, and Stingley didn't really anticipate that. After that, dude was shutting people down. He was all over the place. Thursday was one of the best days Derek Stingley's had as a professional football player. Looked really, really impressive against that Dolphins team on Thursday. So I'm excited to see Stingley in the game, especially if Tyreek Hill plays. They give him the opportunity to go against Tyreek Hill. Even if it's not Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle's a nice matchup. Eric Izakama, who got him initially on that first rep, and then he dominated him the next time that he went out there. I'm really excited to see Stingley. And then Will Anderson. I want to see him out there. I would love to see Will Anderson get that sack out of the way, get that professional sack out of the way, even though it's the preseason. But I'd love to see 51 come flying in, crush Tua, and he doesn't have like a celebration or anything. His celebration seems to be just yelling, "Let's freaking go." So I'd love to see him get the sack out of the way. Because I don't want this guy to be sitting here week 3, week 4, week 5, not have a sack to his name. He's going to have an effect on the game. We saw it against the Patriots. He forced fake Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi to step up in the pocket. And Denzel Perryman got in there and got the sack. So he can affect the game. But I'd love for Will Anderson to just beat his man, get in there, sack the quarterback. And I'd give Anderson a couple of extra reps, even if Tua is not in there, just to see. Get that out of the way. I know it's a preseason game. I know it doesn't count, but the feeling of sacking the quarterback. He has not sacked a quarterback since college because you don't sack them in practice, even joint practices. You just do the little touch, okay? But him just crushing a quarterback, taking the guy to the ground, or fighting through a tackle and, pulling a guy down with one arm. Like, I want to see Will Anderson get a sack. Okay? I want to see Will Anderson get a sack. Wide receivers. I feel like everybody's going to play. Again, D'Amico Ryan said all our players are going to play. So I feel like everybody's going to play. Nico, Woods, Tank. I want to see that three on the field in the three wide receiver set. Okay? So I want to see Nico, Tank, and Woods. And then when Woods takes a seat, because Robert Woods doesn't need a lot of work. Robert Woods looks ready to go for the regular season. He was taking care of business the 2 joint practices. But that guy took it easy, it felt like, and was getting open with regularity. Okay? Robert Woods has had a very nice camp to this point. He doesn't have any amazing standout plays. He just gets open and catches the ball, and they move the sticks with Robert Woods. That's what they do. So I don't know that he needs a ton of work. So after I see Woods, Nico, and Tank, I then want to see Mechie, Hutch, and Tank on the field at the same time. Noah Brown's going to play as well. And then they've got some other wide receivers. Steven Sims is in there every now and then. But after I see Nico, Woods, and Tank, I want to see Xavier. I was corrected on this week. It's not Xavier. It's Xavier Hutchinson. And John Mechie and Tank Dell. I want to see those 3 guys on the field together playing a lot. So I'd like to see that. Tegan Quintiriano, he's been off the PUP list for about a week now. But if you didn't know that, you wouldn't have noticed because he hadn't done anything. Okay? Quintiriano's back from the injury. He hadn't done anything. I haven't noticed one play that Tegan Quintiriano's made since he got back from the injured list, or from the PUP list, excuse me. So it'd be nice to see Tegan Quintiriano on the field and notice that Tegan Quintiriano's on the field. That guy's tight end too. Okay? And then beyond him, maybe it's Mason Schreck, maybe it's Brevin Jordan. I don't know, but they need some help at the tight end spot. If Tegan Quintiriano's not going to be that guy, they got to get poor Dalton Schultz. They got to get poor Dalton Schultz a little bit more, man. It's not been good enough. It's not been good enough at the tight end spot. So I don't know if that's a veteran. I don't know if that's shipping off some position you feel like you have access to go get a tight end, or it's like a mid fifth, a sixth, a seventh round pick to go get a tight end that you like if you're Nick Caserio. But it's just not it's not good enough at the tight end spot. So I'd like to see a little Dalton Schultz. And let's see. One more player that I was thinking about. Who else needs to play? Oh, Kurt Heinisch and Roy Lopez. Watch the defensive tackles and watch the work that they put in, because if they keep 4 defensive tackles, Roy Lopez and Kurt Heinisch are fighting each other for that final spot. And I thought, like, if you just asked me before camp started, I would have picked Heinisch over Lopez. Camp got started, and Roy got out to a big lead. And then Kurt caught up to him. So they're kind of neck and neck. If they keep 5 defensive tackles, I'm not worried about if they both make the team. If they keep 4, only one of those guys is making the team. And it's not like you can just immediately practice squad those guys. Okay? Because they're good enough to go play on somebody's roster. They're not going to be practice squad guys, Roy Lopez or Kurt Heinisch, if they get cut. So they're not going to be practice squad guys. So just, be cognizant of that if you're Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryan's making the cut down. I got a running game offensive line theory here in just a moment, but let's fire through some of your questions, some of your comments. Leo wants to know, what's my wide receiver depth chart? So my depth chart, my power rankings are different. My power rankings are just who I trust in order. My depth chart is where they play. So my power rankings are who I trust in order. I mean, I trust Tank Dell more than anybody. The guy just keeps getting open. So I'd go Tank Dell, Robert Woods, Nico Collins, Noah Brown, John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson. That's my power rankings. Now, my depth chart, your outside guys to me are Woods and Nico. Tank's your inside guy. Noah Brown's your backup inside guy, and then Hutchinson and Mechie your backup outside guys. But there's a lot of versatility to everybody. In fact, those 6 wide receivers I just talked about, with the exception of Nico, everyone can play inside and outside, and probably can do it pretty well. So that's where I'm at on that standpoint. Thomas Booker's hurt. And if he is back, I haven't noticed it. But Thomas Booker's got an uphill battle to stick around, in my opinion. Yeah. Them little Debbie's living on a mansion. She sleeps on a bed of cash. If everybody's paying $2 for little Debbie's now. Man. I'm going to watch this tomorrow morning at work. I love listening to you. It's my zen. Thank you. Hopefully I entertain enough that you can still do your job, but also enjoy going to work. I'd like to see Stingley and Damo on the field together. How much 21 personnel you think will run this season? Man, it's tough to estimate exactly what this situation is going to look like, because I don't know who they trust, I don't know who they trust to get some of this done. As far as your traditional 21, like Andrew Beck's going to be on the field a lot. So you're going to have a fullback on the field. So 2 backs. And then he's able to kind of move out and play around with that. So El Mario says Bowers next year. Boy, it won't be pizza party. We already talked about the pizza party proclamation. The Browns pick ends up so high they can select Marvin Harrison Jr. That's the pizza party proclamation, and I'll take care of all the pizza and some drinks. Okay. Brock Bowers is damn near close to a pizza party. Damn near close to a pizza party. If you don't know who Brock Bowers is, he's the stud tight end for the Georgia Bulldogs. He's one of the most dynamic players in all of college football. He's one of the best players in all of college football. And he will be the highest drafted tight end since Vernon Davis. Let me make sure I have that. Oh, Pitts was 4th overall. So Pitts was the highest since Vernon. Bowers could go 4 overall. He could go 3 overall too. He could beat Pitts' situation. Forgot Pitts was that high. Why did I think Pitts was like 7 or 8? The Falcons. Although, looks like Bijan's a monster. Looks like Bijan is a monster. Speaking of Bijan, that running game in Atlanta is going to be a lot better because they got Bijan Robinson. The running game of the offensive line. This, to me, goes a little bit hand in hand here. And I'm not breaking any news when I tell you if you're running the ball well, your offensive line's playing well. But this offensive line did not play well in joint practices against the Dolphins in the second day of joint practices. And I do wonder if an element of this offensive line struggling is they don't have the full ability to go out there and impose their will on somebody. And when I say don't have the full ability, they're not allowed to in practice. You don't have Dameon Pierce downhill tearing through people like you would on a game day. And I do believe once they have the full complement of what they can do on game day, and they're starting to run the football well, this offensive line is inherently going to pass block better. If you can wear down some of these defenses with a solid rushing attack, it inherently becomes easier to pass block. And we know that this offense is an offense that's going to run the football quite a bit, especially when you have a rookie quarterback, and especially when that's sort of the skill set that maximizes this offensive line. Shaq Mason, Scruggs, and Kenyon Green, to this point, in my opinion, have all been better run blocking than pass blocking. Laramie Tunsil's Mr. Do-It-All. He can do whatever you need him to do. And Titus Howard can do a lot. In fact, I feel like there's been a good portion of the time where running right, up Titus Howard's behind, had been better than running left a couple of different times in recent Texans history. But imposing their will, wearing down the opposing defense, and just running the ball well, it's going to make the offensive line's pass blocking a lot easier. And I don't believe they can do that in joint practices. I don't believe they can do that in practice against their teammates, but I do believe they can showcase that to a tiny extent in the preseason. And then ultimately, over the first 5 or 6 games of the season, they start to establish themselves. They start to run the ball well, and all of a sudden pass blocking becomes a little bit easier. That's certainly my hope and my theory about this offensive line. And I do wonder if they can start getting in a rhythm running the football, if that will just get the confidence level of some of these guys when they get to the pass blocking situation, and the confidence level of CJ Stroud that knows, hey, we're wearing these guys down. We got them in a situation where we want them. And I know that, he knows Larry Tunsil's blocking this guy, but I know Titus is going to block his guy when he's back. I know Shaq and Kenyon and Juice got me, so I can take my time. I make my reads. I can make my play. So that's my big thing is once we get into games, preseason and even real games, running the football well is going to help the pass blocking quite a bit. That's sort of my theory. I'm not breaking any ground here. I'm not discovering the theory of relativity like whichever scientist discovered the theory of relativity. Is that Einstein? Was theory of relativity Einstein? Yes. Science was not my strong suit, folks. Science was not my strong suit. So I'm glad I got that one. So, all right. Let's get to some of your questions. I haven't even had the ticker on the whole time. Get some of your questions and go through some of these. Again, if you want your question answered first, you want to go to the front of the line, the super chat is available to you. I'll get to as many questions as I can. Let's hang out and talk some football. You got some other questions for me that you want to get to? We certainly can get to that. Hubra, I think that's your name, has a question. Stoots, you got that link for the lower price jerseys? Email me. CodyStoots@gmail.com. CODYSTOOTS@gmail.com. Email me. I can give you, I can send you to a place. That's all I can do. I can send you to a place. Which wide receiver do you think is going to stand out the most tomorrow? I mean, am I copping out if I say Tank? Like, am I copping out if I say Tank Dell? You know, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to see a big Mechie day. It'd be real nice to see a big Mechie day, especially with his buddy Tua over there. It'd be nice to see a big Mechie day. I would think that Tank is going to be the dude, though. Staying with the wide receiver conversation, Jacob wants to know, I think Woods is a legit wide receiver 1. So, yes and no. Could he be the top pass catcher for this team? Yes. Is that a good wide receiver 1? Probably not, like in the grand scheme of the NFL. It's like, can he catch the ball effectively, and can you trust him to go run his routes, get first downs? Yes. Is he going to be dynamic and have amazing games? No, I don't believe he is. I wouldn't draft Robert Woods in traditional fantasy just because I don't know which week he's going to be successful. But as far as a late round pick in best ball fantasy, I'd take a swing on Robert Woods because then you might cumulatively get some of the benefits. You know, if Woods has 800 yards and 5 touchdowns, that's a pretty good season from Robert Woods. You know, if that's the best pass catcher that you have on the team, that's not a good season. It's a good season for Robert Woods. It's not a good season for the Houston Texans. Unless you have like 7 guys doing that. And then all of a sudden, okay, well, it's a pretty damn good season for everybody. But we all know that's not how the NFL works. Usually one guy separates himself. Michael Moore, clearly not the documentary guy. Cody, want to start a YouTube channel? Can I send you my email for some pointers? You can send me an email at CodyStoots@gmail.com, and I'll give you whatever pointers I got. Jim Davies wants to know your thoughts on the Ravens signing Clowney. Solid pickup for them. Gonna help them with the run stopping. And I wonder if this addition of Clowney is because they don't feel great about the development of some of the young guys that they have at the defensive line. So that kind of is one of those things too. Plus they added Ronald Darby, not Bradley Roby. Bradley Roby's on the Saints. Ronald Darby. Added Ronald Darby to make up for Marlon Humphrey being down for a while. So that was a unique addition. And I do wonder if Marcus Peters hadn't been signed by the Raiders, if they'd have just brought back Marcus Peters when Humphrey went down. But Humphrey being down for week 1 is big for the Texans. Big. Real big. All right, I'll get to as many of your questions as I can. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Is Roundtree going to be practice squad guy? Is he going to battle for the third spot, or is it Boone? I don't know why Larry Roundtree's here. Is that his name? Larry Roundtree? Hold on. Yeah, Larry Roundtree. He's got like a touchdown and like 5 first downs and like 40 carries in the NFL. Yeah, practice squad, sure, maybe. But he's not going to push Boone or Dare Agumbawale for a roster spot. I don't believe so. With the wide receiver play from Tank and what we expect from Woods and Collins, do you have more faith in our wide receiver core, or do you think we target one in free agency after the cut down? I believe their 6 wide receivers are good to go. And I do have more faith in them than I initially had. But I believe their 6 wide receivers are good to go. It's Robert Woods, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, John Mechie, Noah Brown, and Xavier Hutchinson. So I think they're good to go wide receiver. I would be surprised to see them add a veteran, because then that costs somebody their spot, unless somebody's hurt or something like that. But all these guys seem pretty healthy. So I think they're good at wide receiver. Bowers each equals extra buttery popcorn party. We have to get some different parties out here that don't start with P. Pizza party, popcorn party. All right, Bowers will be a barbecue party, which is probably way more expensive than a pizza party. Bowers will be if the Browns pick is super high and they get Bowers, we'll do barbecue. It's not as fun as a pizza party proclamation, but it's still fun. Bijan looked fun tonight. Oh yeah, Bijan's good at the old football. Good at the old football. El Mario's not worried about the offensive line. I'm wondering if he thinks that, or if it's part of the theory I just talked about there in a second. And then he said only Green. It's like, yeah, you're right. Right. Birdie, I think that was when I was talking about Bowers in the tight end. You're correct. Kyle Pitts, 4th. Bowers could go 3rd. Bowers probably goes 4th. Your top 3 next year are probably Caleb Williams, Drake May, Marvin Harrison Jr., and then Bowers. That's probably your top 4, unless some defensive end is just a monster. A lot, no. Some, and more than the first game, yes. I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet. I really want to see Oppenheimer, though. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe I'll go watch that Sunday afternoon or Sunday night or something. But I'm a total World War II nerd. I love World War II. My grandma used to keep me in the summers. And if I wasn't playing my demo version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, because I didn't have the full version, if I wasn't playing my demo version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I was watching the History Channel, which used to only be like World War II stuff. Now it's like aliens and the search for, mega bears and stuff, but it used to be World War II. And I love World War II. Love World War. I know you're not supposed to get into World War II until you're like 60 years old and you're like a dad, but like I love World War II. I like World War I as well. World War I's kind of nasty. It's a lot of, all war is nasty, but like some of the stuff about World War I, it's kind of real like eye opening. Like what? That's how it was going down. trench warfare. Get out of here. Get out of here. Yeah, I like me some World War II stuff, so I really need to see Oppenheimer. How many targets you think Tank sees Saturday? As many as he can get, man. He gets open, they'll throw it to him. He gets open, and they'll throw it to him. Let's see. I think he was targeting probably about 10 times last week, so I would think about the same. Armchair GM keyboard coach. What was that email? Cody Stoots at gmail.com. CODYSTOOTS at gmail.com. Kevin R. wants to know, what's your go-to fast food? Taco Bell. That's probably my go-to. Taco Bell. And if I'm getting a burger, Whataburger. Man, the consistency. Consistency is just not there from the Whataburger right now. Desmond King looks like he's been getting beat a little throughout camp. Any chance Tavier Thomas can see the field more? Desmond King had an interception on Thursday. Those two guys are pretty close. Tavier Thomas is better. King's versatility is important for him. He's also a factor in the return game. But I do believe they're going to play Tavier Thomas a little bit more with this crew than the previous defenses have. Woods didn't do much with Tennessee. That is true. He also had Malik Willis throwing him the ball for a good portion of the year. So I'm not super worried about his Tennessee come down. Part of it's come back from the injury. Part of it was the quarterback play and the offense stunk. So, I mean, if he goes out there and it's Tennessee Robert Woods, it's not going to look good. But I don't believe it's going to be Tennessee Robert Woods. It ain't going to be, prime Rams Robert Woods, but somewhere in between, you ought to be okay. You ought to be okay. CJ should play at least all first quarter with all starters, even Laramie. Yeah, I mean, I'd play him into the second quarter. Play him into the second quarter. Trillburgers being sold at Texans games. Heard this season. Can't wait to try that. Trillburgers is good, man. I like me some Trillburgers. Had them at the rodeo. I haven't had them at the brick and mortar yet, but I had them at the rodeo. I think the gimmick here with Trillburgers is the inside closes like 9, but I think the drive-through stays open later. So you got a lot of people driving through for the old Trillburgers. I had them at the rodeo. They were good. Now I'd had a couple Colt Pops. I had a couple Colt Pops before I had them, but they're good. I want to see more of John Mechie. I do too. I got a fun Mechie story for you. So Thursday's practice ends, and so the players are hanging out on the field with their families. People have their guests or their friends, their families, or their agents or their dads, which, by the way, Derek Stingley's dad looks like he could play linebacker. He's humongous. He's in better shape than like some of the players, it feels like. And then that's when we do our interviews. So we had D'Amico on Thursday. We had Robert Woods. We had Damian Pierce. And we had someone else who's I'm forgetting right now. But, by the time we got done with the interviews and talking, and I was chatting with some of the other media folks, we're close to an hour after the practice ended. I'm looking around. Everybody's pretty much cleared out. They're getting ready to start taking care of the field. And there's 3 players left on the field. And over on the field, in the 100-degree weather, still in their crap, is Derek Stingley and John Mechie. And they're working stuff out on the field. It's Stingley and Mechie, and they're working stuff. They're walking through reps. They're talking. So when Stingley walks off, and I see John Mechie walking off, he picks up his gloves and his helmet. I'm like, oh, okay, well, he's out of here, and I guess Stingley's out of here. And then I noticed where Stingley went. He went over to the other side, like this little covering that they have, and he started talking to a player, and I was like, who is that? It was Jalen Petrie. And so then you see Stingley and Petrie talking, and Stingley's kind of, pantomiming some like swim moves and stuff like that. So they're clearly talking. And I was like, oh, I guess Mechie left. And then I looked again. Mechie hadn't left yet. Mechie's putting his gloves on. puts his helmet on, gets a coach to fire up the jugs machine, starts catching footballs. Hour after practice. This guy's going to talk to his friends, talk to his family, hung out with Tua after the practice. And then those three dudes are still on the practice field an hour after it's over, including Mechie sitting there in his full gear with his helmet on the jugs machine. Just catching ball after ball after ball after ball. And I thought that was a cool little bit about John Mechie. He's got some catching up to do, and there's some guys that have performed better than him here in camp to this point, but there's something there with John Mechie. I believe in John Mechie. If Marvin is off, the Texans can take Brock Bowers. What are you doing? I'm taking Brock Bowers. Hopefully find me a sponsor for a barbecue party. Barbecue is expensive. Would you trade Mills for a stud O-line and a pick? Well, you're not getting that for Davis Mills, and I don't believe they would trade Davis Mills. I mean, somebody blew them away. If someone blew them away, maybe, but nobody's blowing them away for Davis Mills. El Mario, I'm allowed a candle that the Brown season goes downhill. You see the report in The Athletic this week? The report in The Athletic this week was Deshaun's basically sucked. Like, that's the summary of the report, which I'm here for it. I'm like El Mario. I might light a candle. I don't know if Vincent Van Gogh route is growing on me. A little long. Okay. I mean, one of the best nicknames ever is Cool Papa Bell. That's a long one. Now, Cy Young, I guess Cy is probably his first name, right? Surely Cy is not his real name. All right. Okay, Vincent Van Gogh routes may not going to happen. All right, it may not happen. I want it to, but if Tank Dell's going to just stick with Tank Dell, I guess so. See, the Texans carry 3 QBs or trade one of them. Carry 3. Oh, Blue Boy. Love the History Channel. My grandfather fought in World War II. I love what the History Channel used to be. I don't care for ancient aliens and Easter Island and swamp monsters and all the crap that's on there now. Thank you, grandfather. Thank you for your grandfather's service, or thank your grandfather for me if he is indeed still with us. Stationed in France. They'd be speaking German if it wasn't for the United States. Which defensive tackle will not make the roster? They keep 4. I would say Heinisch is out. They keep 5. Khalil Davis chilling on the practice squad, not on the regular. Not on the regular roster. Abram Hernandez, sorry. Miss you on 97.5, like a new show, though. Hey, I hung out with those guys the other night. We had some fun, kind of like a little like a wheelhouse wrap-up type thing. Haven't had some fun with those guys. We had a good fun. The wheelhouse had its era, and now we're all doing, what all we do. So check out Jake here on YouTube. Check out BK here on YouTube. And appreciate you guys checking me out here on YouTube. Yep, saw the Trill Burgers. It's going to be good. Also, is Nico Collins look like he's progressing? Nico's always been a really good practice player. That's been one of my biggest beefs with Nico Collins. He's an excellent practice player. So that's my beef with him. It hasn't translated to Sundays. You hang out with subscribers tomorrow. This all depends on exactly getting to the stadium, the game day operation, still trying to figure out exactly how, what I'm going to do and all that kind of stuff. But I do want to be able to come out, if you guys are out tailgating, come out and say hello, chat with you, or if you're in the stadium early, pop in there. It's easier for me to get out to tailgates, even though it's like hot and I'll sweat through my clothes, but I'll sweat through my clothes for you guys. I don't care if the media people think I'm stinky. I would like to put something like this together. I don't know exactly how to go about that. Maybe it's just simply tweeting out, hey, where is everybody tomorrow? And just trying to come over and say hello best I can. 713 TX Skills. Appreciate the live stream, Stoots. You've been killing it, homie. Great insight. Thank you. What's our defensive weak link? It's a good question, Randy. It's a good question. Until they prove until they prove they can stop the run, I'm going to say it's that. So until they stop the run, I'm going to say that's the defensive weak link. Okay, that's the defensive weak link. People asking for the email in the chat. Hopefully, I don't regret giving y'all my email, but whatever. Too late now. Said it 4 times. Also, if you want to get in and ask your question on the stream, that's the link in there as well. But yeah, until they prove they can stop the run, and they should stop the run better. Sheldon Rankins, Malik Collins playing the best football of his career. Will Anderson's got the ability to help out in stopping the run. These linebackers are way better. Until they stop the run on a consistent basis, I'm not going to believe that they can stop the run. This has been the worst 2-3 years of paying attention to rushing football that I've ever seen from a team, both from a defensive and offensive perspective. So I'm tired of not being able to watch a team that can run the football or stop the run. Pierce helped a little bit with it last year, but they still ran Rex Burkhead too damn much. And then they couldn't stop a nosebleed on the ground the past couple of years. So until both those things are better, I'm going to feel a little about it. Do you have a schedule for these videos, or are we kind of winging them right now? Enjoying the passion for the team you share with us. No hard schedule, certainly not for the lives. No hard schedule. I do want to in the preseason, or once the preseason's done and get into the regular season, because everything is the same. There's no Thursday games. There's no Monday games. I do kind of want to get close to a schedule, but that's kind of for the recorded videos. The lives, you never know when the live is going to pop up. So hit the little bell and you'll get notifications when stuff pops up. The little bell is important here. And if you haven't hit the thumbs up, appreciate a thumbs up, the subscription, and I appreciate the kind words like what Ray had to say. Cody, what's the difference between the training camps of CJ and that of Deshaun/Osweiler in terms of performance in their first season? So it's a good question. Somebody asked me this the other day on, I think it was in a Twitter DM. Deshaun had more, like, oh, he's special. He had more of that than CJ Stroud has, but Stroud's consistency, and you can see how Stroud works in the offense. Like, that didn't come across with Deshaun right away. You just saw Deshaun with an arm strength that was way better than what we thought it was, and just do some stuff. With Stroud, you kind of see the operation a bit more in the ecosystem of the offense. And I have a tough time speaking about Osweiler because I did not get to attend a ton of those training camps with Osweiler. I remember us kind of looking around and being like, is this it? Is this it? I do remember that. All right, let's see what Gray has got. I think that's it. Gray, what do you got for us? Unmute and ask your question if you want to get in here. Gray going once. Gray going twice. All right, maybe next time. Are the rumors of Mills to the 49ers true? I don't believe they're trading Davis Mills. I just don't. I don't believe they're going to trade Davis Mills. One, the backup, if you traded Davis Mills tomorrow, would be EJ Perry, and that's not good enough. I think Keenum's going to be healthy and back eventually, and then Mills is a solid backup. He's probably one of the 10 best backups. He's probably one of the 10 best backups in football. In fact, let's play a game here. Let's play a game. Are you guys familiar with the website Our Lads. Our Lads is run by a good friend of mine named Dan Shanka. And I used to talk to Dan when I did national radio back in the day. Dan would come on and we'd talk about the draft. And Dan's website is an incredible resource. It's called ourlads.com. If you've never used it, it has the depth chart for every team. Now, sometimes it's a little bit different than what actually happens. And think about what they're trying to do. They're trying to put together a damn depth chart for every team in the NFL, and they have college depth charts too. But you can sort, okay? You can sort by position at ourlads.com. You just go to NFL depth charts, you go to depth chart by position. So let's go through here. And I'll just quickly go through every backup quarterback, and we'll just quickly say if I think they're better or worse than Davis Mills. Kyle Allen, worse. Mike White, worse. Bailey Zappi, the same. Zach Wilson, worse. Tyler Huntley, worse. Trevor Siemian, worse. Josh Dobbs, worse. Mitch Trubisky, worse. All right, so have we found one better yet? That's two divisions. We haven't found one better. Minshew, better. CJ Beathard, worse. Malik Willis, worse. Jarrett Stidham, Gabbert, Hoyer, Easton Sticks, the backup in L.A., all worse. Cooper Rush, better. Tyrod Taylor, worse. Marcus Mariota, worse. Jacoby Brissett, better. All right, so there's three. P.J. Walker, worse. Teddy Bridgewater, better. Sean Clifford, worst. What's up, Alex Magoo, former Houston Texan? Nick Mullins, worse. Taylor Heineke's better. Andy Dalton's better. Jameis Winston's better. Well, look at the backup QBs in this division. Trask is worse. McCoy's worse. Stetson Bennett's worse. Trey Lance is probably worse. It's terrible, apparently, out there. Sam Darnold, I'll say worse. Drew Lock, worse. All right, so 7 guys better than Davis Mills as a backup quarterback. So, even if you gave me, two more names that you thought were better, he's one of the 10 best backup quarterbacks in all of football. So trading him doesn't make any sense. I think very clearly it would not have, or that's what they would have traded. What's Mechie's realistic ceiling? Wide receiver 2, second best pass catcher on a team. I think that's a good ceiling. How have Kenyon Green and Juice Scruggs looked so far? Juice Scruggs, Kenyon Green. Juice Scruggs, Kenyon Green. Hadn't looked good for Kenyon Green. And that's the thing. He didn't look worse, but didn't look any better. That's the tough part about Kenyon Green. I thought you'd be grilling with Cal yesterday. I'll tell you what, man. They don't want to see me on the grill. Mainly because I might undercook the burgers, and then they'd have a lawsuit on their hands. No, I'm kidding. The chill out with Cal, or cooking with Cal, or grilling with the owner. Hey, maybe one day I'll make it in there. Harris, I feel like Nico not translating to Sundays has a lot to do with Mills and injuries. Yes. There's probably a large element of that. He needs to stay healthy. He desperately needs to stay healthy for 17 games. How would you feel about acquiring Chris Godwin, a veteran, true number 1 wide receiver for us? I don't want to give up what it takes to get Chris Godwin, and too much. I don't like the cost. Texas barbecue is the best. The best. Abigail, didn't Tyreek Hill run away from our secondary last Thursday? Yeah, Tyreek had a really good couple of joint practices, but that's because Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. Like, one of the 5 best wide receivers in football is going to get you. He's going to get you. Just don't let everybody else beat you. I was surprised to not see more Jalen Waddle success on the field, or not notice more Jalen Waddle success, or really anybody else. Like, Tyreek was the only 2-day successful guy, because even Durham Smythe, who looked good the first day, didn't look that good the second day. Abigail, We all remember Brock Osweiler, unfortunately. We all remember Brock Osweiler, unfortunately. What's your go-to alcoholic drink? A beer. I prefer beer to liquor. I do not have a official beer of Cody Stoots. You know, if you want to be the official beer of Cody Stoots, it's open. I don't have the official beer. I usually go lighter. I'm not a huge IPA fan. I don't like the hoppy stuff. So I usually go lighter. You know, a Love Street, a Blue Moon. I do like a Yingling every now and then. I know it's not, I mean, it's lighter-ish. And then, domestic light and cold. It's kind of my go-to. Tell you what, I love, you just lay out a bunch of beers in front of me. Here's sort of a group of beers that I would gravitate towards. I love Miller High Life. I freaking love Miller High Life. I love Corona. I like Yellow Bellies. So your banquet beers, Coors Original. I like Pearl. If you can find a place that's got Pearl, I will drink them out of Pearl. And I love Schlitz. If I ever find Schlitz, I buy it. I love Schlitz. So those are kind of like the hey, I was in a beer place, they got any beer I want. I'm gravitating towards those 5, actually. Yeah. Gravitating towards those 5. Yeah, Andrew knows about Shanka. Andrew knows about it. He was producing on the network back in the day when Shanka was making his appearances. That's the real Andrew Carlson. That's him. Cody, one of the media guys from Miami, basically said the QB play was real bad through the second practice. He's wrong. It wasn't real bad. There were some moments that I'm sure CJ Stroud wanted back, but I didn't feel like Stroud played poorly. I feel like the offense executed overall poorly, but I didn't feel like Stroud had a bad moment. Was bad. I feel like the offense was bad at different times. But Stroud, it's not like Stroud was out there just totally overwhelmed and incapable of doing things. You think D'Amico has been as advertised other than energy aspect for the team? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's been as advertised. You think there's a chance we go and sign someone to replace Green? If Kenyon Green can't go, Michael Dieter is his replacement. The guy they signed in the offseason, played for the Dolphins the past couple of years. So Dieter would be the guy. Could they add some depth? Yeah, they just cut a guard, though, so they must feel okay about what they have. Must feel okay. Was Stingley on Hill at all? I couldn't see. I couldn't see all of them. Again, the way it was set up, it's tough to see a lot of the defense stuff. Saw as much as I could. I'm sure he was, and I'm sure Tyreek got him. Tyreek gets everybody. I want to see that tomorrow, though. I want to see that for the preseason game. I want to see Stingley and Tyreek Hill. D'Amico Ryans and Mike McDaniel are cowards if they don't give us that. Cowards. With the large amount of cap space they'll have next year, is there any big free agents you'd like to see them target or look at? It's tough. I don't know. A year ago today, you wouldn't have thought Javon Hargrave was going to get $90 million. So I don't know. I don't know what's popping up from a free agency standpoint. And I don't know where they need guys just yet. So I will say, I think Mike Evans is set to be a free agent. And if he's a free agent, go get Mike Evans because he's awesome. Yeah, Mike Evans is going to be a free agent after this year if he doesn't sign an extension and he hits free agency, go get him. Wide receiver 1, stick him out there, bing, bang, boom. Yeah, there's only so many different. I mean, how much more money do you want to dump into the offensive line? You already have the third or fourth highest paid right tackle, the 11th highest paid guard, the most expensive offensive lineman in football, and a first round pick and a second round pick invested in this damn thing. How much more money you want to dump in this thing? You know? I mean, Devin's got a super chat, wants to get to the front. What are your realistic expectations for CJ in tomorrow's game in the first team offense overall? It's going to look better than the first preseason game. I do fully believe that, especially because I believe the first team offensive line is going to play with him. So I believe that's going to look better. I do believe he'll lead a scoring drive. It may just be a field goal, but if he gets time to get into a rhythm, or they give him the opportunity to play a couple of different drives beyond what they did in New England, I do believe there's a scoring drive in there somewhere. If they can't score against whatever the Dolphins are running out there in a preseason game, then they got a lot more work to do than we thought on the offense. But better than the first game and a scoring drive is sort of my expectation as well as my hope, really, for CJ Stroud. Devin, I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. If you'd like to get to the front of the line, the super chat is the way to go. Andrew Carlson has a question. How many points is Tech losing to UH by this year? I got something for you, Andrew. I got something for you. Hold on, everybody. You better bring your hard hat to that game because you're going to need it, Coug fans. They're not losing to the Cougars. They're going to dominate them, okay? They're going to dominate UH because Texas Tech is a superior university to the University of Houston, and it is a far superior football program. Do you have hard hats with your logo on it? No, you do not. So I am not worried about UH in the slightest this year. Texas Tech will probably win by 30 or 40 points. It might be 50 points, okay? Going to be utter and total domination. Utter and total domination, okay? I messed up my new haircut for that. Does it work with, can I put it on with the headset? No, I cannot. All right. Get that out of the way. Miller High Life, my favorite beer by far. I was at the first day of Miami practice, all those CJ threw 3 T. I think he held the ball too long. On all passes were probably sacked, but I'm rooting for him. Just a realist as we get. I can tell you this. He was not going to get sacked on 2 of those. One of them, you want to say it was a sack. I actually wrote it in my notes. But he was not going to get sacked on 2 of those. One of them, he rolled out, had the guy coming from the right side in front of him. The other one, he was rolling out left, and he was not going to. I do not believe either of those were a sack. One of the 3 to Tank Dell, yes, I do believe was a sack. Or maybe it was the Schultz one. But one of those 4 touchdowns was more than likely a sack. I will give you that. I'm almost afraid that the thing I know about Schlitz is they say it's imported from Milwaukee. Is there something that I should know about it? Banquets. I love it. 7. That's my number right now. 7. CJ Stroud's an elite human being. Like I have come to realize and notice that he's a really good person from the interactions that I have watched, the people I've talked to. Really good. Really good. So, I mean, I think my favorite, probably my favorite Stroud thing to observe to this point is the post-draft press conference. And it's just a free-for-all. There's like 50 reporters in the entire room. And it just, you start yelling your question and just hope that the player looks at you and then you can finish asking your question. We're about 7 or 8 questions deep, Will Anderson and CJ Stroud at the podium. And, you know, Stroud kind of stops everybody, quiets everybody down. And there was a reporter there a handicap reporter there that, hadn't quite stood out in the crowd, but Stroud had noticed he wanted a question. And he pointed to the reporter and he said, "Hey, you're next. You asked the question. What do you got?" Guy asked a great question. But I thought that was a great moment. Stroud has talked a ton about wanting to do a lot of community stuff back where he's from, as well as extending it to Houston. And just, he seems very joyful to be in the position that he is in as a quarterback. And yeah, I think he'd sign autographs till his damn hand fell off if he could. Is there any sense that because we are so desperate for a quarterback, we aren't properly evaluating Stroud's camp performances? The Miami reporters have been much less positive about our QB play in joints. I mean, if it potentially, sure. I feel like Andrew's coming right at me for this, though. Look, I see what I see, and I call it like I see it. And yes, there are times where CJ Stroud is holding onto the football too long. Like, I do not want to ignore that fact. But a lot of times when he does do that, it's because he has the time to do that. Like, I don't believe Stroud sitting there holding onto the ball, taking unnecessary sacks in practice. Is he getting sacked in practice? Yes. When he gets sacked in practice, a lot of times it's because the offensive line didn't do their job. It's not always because he didn't do his job. Are there probably 2 or 3 plays over the course of a practice that he misses because he does hold on to the ball too long? Absolutely. I had one of the comments about Stroud early in practice where there were some times where he felt like he was trying to make the best play instead of making a good play with the ball. And that is something that's up to Gerard Johnson and Bobby Slowick to make sure does not happen on a regular basis. Because if you're always looking to make the best play, then you will not make the best play on a regular basis. Because sometimes the best play is just a dump down to Dalton Schultz, not trying to sling that sucker to Tank Dell down the field and having a safety jump in the route and throw in your first interception, which is what happened in the preseason game. He's trying to make the best play to Tank Dell instead of making the good play, which is 10 yards to Dalton Schultz, team punts with one of the better punters in the league. So, yes, I have been excited about CJ Stroud, but I don't believe that my excitement for Stroud has clouded me personally, my assessment of the quarterback spot and what has been brought to the table. When he doesn't have a good day, I say he doesn't have a good day. When he has a down slope or when he hits a rocky patch, I say he has a rocky patch. And I think evidenced by the fact that through the first 6 practices, I had this thing 2-2-2. I had 2 ties, 2 Davis Mills days, and 2 CJ Stroud days. And then CJ Stroud went on a run and put together a bunch of good practices, and he's been QB1 since then. There's going to be growing pains. Absolutely going to be growing pains. And we're going to have to watch those and assess those within the context of how they happen. He makes a mistake because the offensive line isn't any good. That's not a CJ Stroud mistake. He makes a mistake, throwing the ball late, not trusting his eyes like he did in New England. That's a CJ Stroud mistake. He's got to do better. Quentin Nelson's not a free agent for a long time. They got him locked up. That guy will never see free agency until he's washed or the Colts are in salary cap hell. The Finns' third stringers will bury Houston. Flava J. Okay. If the third stringers are better than the Texans' third stringers, then be my guest. Tell you what wasn't better. The red zone defense the other day. The best team period any team had in the 2 days of joint practice. The best team period was Texans offense versus Dolphins defense, best on best, and the Texans scored 4 touchdowns, maybe 5 touchdowns in the red zone team period day 1. That was the best team period either of the 2 teams had. 3 Tank Dell touchdowns, a Dalton Schultz touchdown, and probably a Dameon Pierce touchdown. They blew it dead, but he got in. Do you all really think Davis Mills should start the season? I don't know that anybody really believes this. I saw my buddy who lives in Dallas sent me a fantasy report from an unnamed fantasy company, and I'm not here to trash people's reporting on stuff when they don't live here. But it's just one of those things where you should trust local reports, local conversation, people that are there in person every single day. The fantasy company put the report out and they said, well, Davis Mills looked really good in the preseason game. CJ Stroud struggled. It has reopened the door for Mills to start. And my buddy texted me and he was like, is this true? And I was like, A, you subscribe to the site. How have you not realized that's not true? B, no, it's not true. Like that's not true. The door is not open for Davis Mills to start. The only first team reps for the past 2 weeks have been taken by CJ Stroud. So the door is not open for Davis Mills to start. UH greater than Tech all day. At Hotel Restaurant Management, it's an excellent program, but that's about where it stops. In proximity to the city of Houston, yeah, UH is better than Texas Tech. That's where it stops. If you were the GM of the Houston Texans, what is one personnel move you would make ASAP? I don't know if there's a move to make like right now. Like I don't love any of the free agent. I mean, I'd try to find one more tight end. I think that's what I would do. I try to find one more tight end. Maybe it's a trade. Maybe I take some depth I have at one position, send it off for a tight end. I think I have one more tight end. Let's see what they need first. Before they make any sort of big trade. If this is a Anthony Richardson joke, El Mario, this is funny. Anthony Richardson had a little rap that folks were not digging on social media this week. I mean, both can get it done from the zip standpoint. Tua had some real nice passes. I mean, Tua makes that stuff look effortless, and it looks weird because he's left-handed too. Just plain Dave, would you consider it a failure if Green underperforms this year and the Texans look for another guard, either draft or free agency? Yeah, I don't see how you couldn't see it as a failure. Kenyon Green was a first-round pick that they traded back. They traded back a couple of spots, got some extra picks. Nick Caserio himself said they had to trade back into the 20s, but they decided not to make that trade, and they decided to get Kenyon Green. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you we'd all be happy with Kenyon Green's performance to this point if he was the 25th pick instead of the 15th pick. That's not the case. Maybe there'd be a little bit more grace there. But when he's not even one of the 13 or 14 best rookie offensive linemen, that's not good. That's not good. And you had other positions that you could have addressed. You had other players that maybe you could have invested in. Maybe it's a defensive end. Maybe it's a different offensive lineman, like a center, like Tyler Linderbaum, who was just like the most can't miss center that we've seen in recent memory. And he was almost a Pro Bowler for the Baltimore Ravens this past year. So, that's yeah, it's absolutely a failure. If he doesn't play all the games this year, it might be a failure. If he gets benched this year, it's a failure. So it's trending a lot closer to failure than success for Kenyon Green. Devin has a super chat. Want to do something cool first time at a Texans game. I'm buying 4 tickets for the game against the Cardinals. I'll have 2 extra either for yourself and a fan or 2 fans. I'll email details when that's set. Devin, man, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for doing something so cool and so nice for the fellow YouTubers. And I'll get with you on that. We'll figure that out as the Cardinals game gets a little bit closer. That's going to be a fun game to be at. That's one of the games the Texans are favored in ahead of the season. That's really cool, Devin. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Now, y'all don't start blowing Devin up trying to go to the game just yet. All right? All right. We did the trade scenarios. We did the zip. What happened to Rex Burkhead? Don't care. Britton. No more Rex talk. Britton, by the way, thank you for the training camp tickets. You weren't able to go. I was able to send them to somebody who got to go to training camp. Thank you so much for that. I hope I'm saying this right. Suraj. How's CJ's legs looking? Are you seeing a lot of scramble and rushing? He's faster than I thought he was. He showcased some top end speed that I didn't know he had in one of these joint practices. He scrambles not as he scrambles not because he wants to, but because he has to. So offensive line breaks down. I don't consider QB movement, like designed rollouts and stuff, to be scrambling or movement. It's not going to be like, they're not going to call a CJ Stroud rushing play a whole bunch this season. But is he going to steal some yards with his legs? Absolutely. Absolutely. Realistic expectations for CJ this season. I mean, score more touchdowns than the past couple of seasons. Get into the 20s in the passing touchdowns. Davis Mills and whatever else they ran out there at quarterback last year, and then Tyrod Taylor and Davis Mills, like it was about 20, 21, 22 touchdowns the past couple of years. Get to those levels and as a rookie and maybe higher. And I don't think that's too much to ask for. They were not going to be bad enough to get either of these guys. And I mean, I'll eat my words if that pick ends up being there, but they're not going to be bad enough to get either of these guys. And they were not going to be bad enough to get either of these guys. I very much believe that. Abel, appreciate the super sticker. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. People are weird with their CJ takes. By their logic, Peyton Manning would have been benched after his first season. Hey, we're going to have some weird CJ Stroud moments and some weird conversations around CJ Stroud this season. Just get ready for it. You expect D'Amico to name CJ starting quarterback for the regular season next week? Yes, I do. I'm wondering if they'd wait till after the third preseason game. I mean, at this point, they're the last team that has any sort of QB competition where they got to name the guy where it matters a ton, right? Like I guess Tampa and San Fran. San Fran matters a ton because they're a Super Bowl contender, but nobody cares who wins the job in Tampa. I guess Baker. Holding out hope he can be the 28th best disposition while we look for somebody else. That's where we are with Kenyon Green. I think CJ will play in preseason week 3. I don't believe he'll play much, if at all. I don't believe he'll play much, if at all. And I just don't get the sense with a couple of ways that D'Amico Ryans has talked about the roster construction and, why they have 90 and 1 cut down. I don't know if they value that third preseason game as much as the 4 joints and the second preseason game. Yeah, you don't game plan and you don't showcase that much. So I'm not super worried about it. It's very... I know when they first did joint practices, it was kind of a faux pas to have a team that's going to be in later that season. The Saints come to town. I think the Saints come to town. The Saints come to town on the Texans schedule, and they joint practice against them in the preseason and play them in the preseason. Yeah, the Saints are in town October 15th, the week before the bye week. So that used to be a big thing. It's not a big thing anymore. Ryan M., how quickly can D'Amico get the defense up and running? The defense is already up and running. I believe they were going to be about the 20 to 22nd best defense. I believe this defense is capable of being a top half of the league defense now. That's how much I have seen my belief in the defense grow. Man, Linderbaum would have been nice. He was my draft crush last year. Mine too. Or mine too. I liked Linderbaum a lot. He had hands like a catcher's mitt. We met him at the Rotary Lombardi Award. Aiden Hutchinson, Kenyon Green, Tyler Linderbaum, and Mike Rose, I think, who's I think he's in the XFL now. He's a linebacker from Iowa State. Uh, 119 dozen 50-50 sweet. Kenyon Green's knee's bad, lost to his meniscus and surgeries, destabilized it. It's an issue, and you wouldn't have drafted him for a Shanahan offense. I mean, I don't know what offense they thought they were going to run when they drafted Kenyon Green. Maybe Josh McCown's offense, but yeah, man, I don't. It's not been good from Kenyon Green. I don't know how bad the knee is still, but it's rough. Brandon says, should have just picked Jordan Davis. Boy, he nasty. Nice run stopper. I'll tell you what, they'd have been able to stop a couple more runs than they did last year if they had Jordan Davis. What I wanted them to do is trade back again and get Linderbaum. That's what I wanted them to do. What I really wanted them to do was draft Jamison Williams, and depending on who you read out of Lions camp, that would have either been a genius thing or a horrible thing. I don't know. Jamison Williams having a rough go of things in Lions camp. Willie Anderson, CJ Stroud parlay for Rookie of the Year. If you can find some place to let you do it, it's worth doing. It's going to be tough to beat Bijan on the offensive side. Quarterbacks will have an opportunity. It's going to be tough to beat Will Anderson, though. I mean, he's been the favorite since the odds came out. I mean, who's going to beat Will Anderson out for the Defensive Rookie of the Year? It's early, but let's go through it real quick here. I mean, Devin Witherspoon, don't see it. Tyree Wilson just started practicing. Jalen Carter's got a damn good chance. He played 3 snaps, and one of them he almost ate the quarterback. So Jalen Carter in Philadelphia certainly got an opportunity to do it. Lucas Van Ness stunk in his first preseason game. Again, limited information on all these guys. Will McDonald for the Jets. I mean, is he going to play all the time? Is he going to be a rotational player? I don't know. Some of these corners, I don't know if these corners are going to be the guys that get it. So, I mean, Anderson's far more likely than Stroud. You think Tank Dell will be week 1 wide receiver 2? He's going to be a weapon that they go to. I just don't know if actual depth chart wise, he's going to be wide receiver 2. I wouldn't call your slot guy wide receiver 2, but if he's your second option, I guess he's your wide receiver 2. They will throw the ball to Tank Dell though, because you know what? Tank Dell gets open. I got a lot more faith in this team now than I have in the past couple of years. That's for dang sure. That's for dang sure. Let's see here. Who you got for Offensive Rookie of the Year? Can't be CJ. Bijan. Yeah, Bijan. In order, I'd go Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Bryce Young, CJ, Dalton Kincaid. That'd be my overweight pecking order. Let's see here. Who are the toughest, most shocking cuts you see the Texans pulling? I mean, defensive tackle is going to be tough, figuring that out. Maybe wide receiver if they decide to keep 5. Somebody's losing their spot. Probably Xavier Hutchinson. The defensive tackle one, if they keep 5, if they keep 4, it's going to be a tough cut. Going to be a tough cut. Yeah, Athletic was very complimentary of the defense. Very complimentary of the defense. Diamond in the rough for the O-line after cuts low. It seems so unlikely. And they seem committed to playing these 5 guys as the starter. So I don't know how that guy comes in and gets the opportunity. How many yards for Pierce this year? Total yards or rushing yards? He's getting if he stays healthy, he's getting 1,000. I mean, 60 yards a game to get 1,000 yards, but can he get more than that? Can he be a 1,200 all-purpose yard guy, 1,300 all-purpose yard guy? Like, it's not the craziest thing in the world. Not the craziest thing. Bijan all the way for O'Roy. Bijan has wills and tangibles, and he catches the ball like Arian. Bro, he catches the ball like Wes Welker. If Bijan Robinson was not a running back and just a slot receiver, he'd be one of the better slot receivers in football. I believe that. I'm not drafting Bijan in fantasy because I don't know that I totally trust the Falcons. But if you have him in a dynasty league, I mean, you are freaking set. How does the offense look game plan, playbook wise? See us taking more shots downfield and CJ can make those throws. They're going to throw the ball deep. It's not going to be forced, but they're going to get the ball deep. If the wide receivers don't work out, what are the odds we trade for a guy like Higgins or draft a guy like Worthy Emeka if available? I mean, if this wide receiver room doesn't work out, then we're going to say see you later to Noah Brown. See you later, Robert Woods. See you later, Nico Collins. You have a bunch of new guys in there. J-Rock, appreciate you jumping in. Darren01, appreciate you. Appreciate you a lot for the super sticker. Let's see. We should be on Hard Knocks. At least we will be on that Jets week. They're not doing the in-season Hard Knocks, are they? In-season Hard Knocks hadn't been announced yet, right? I thought I read that the Commanders were maybe the they don't have the in-season Hard Knocks team announced yet. So no Hard Knocks yet. Let's see. Let's take a quick look here if there could be an in-season Hard Knocks team. The Steelers might be a decent in-season Hard Knocks team. That's probably about it for the in-season Hard Knocks. Hell, I'd put the Texans on the in-season Hard Knocks. That'd be awesome. I mean, I feel like everything Bijan does is awesome. Did you see him in the corner of the end zone? Like one hand and one in practice one day? I mean, he's a freak. We'll get a wheelhouse stream together one of these days. Hopefully on a Tuesday so we can play Hypothetical Tuesday with BK. Yeah, it's tough because they just find another guy to do the guy's job. Yeah, Zadis Q. Pierce had 1,100 all-purpose yards, 13 games last year. Most of them were rushing after contact. Yeah, I mean, look, they're going to throw the ball more. San Fran targeted running backs 25% of the time last year. So they're going to throw the ball more. I just wonder if Pierce is more effective and while simultaneously also being used less because they have a better backup now than Devin Singletary, and Singletary can catch the ball. So, Ugly Man Caves, Nico get 800 yards this year? Sure as hell hope so. Sure as hell hope so. Xavier Worthy isn't all that good on IMO. He's like a worse Will Fuller. I think he's going to have something for. I think he's going to have something for you this season. By the end of the year, I would bet on Nico and Tank being the two best pass catchers. Excuse me, two best wide receivers. Two best pass catchers. I would bet on Schultz and Tank being the two best pass catchers. Ooh, what DNs stay on the team and how many do we keep? Keep 5, maybe 6. Grenard, Anderson, Hughes, Jacob Martin, Dylan Horton. There's your 5. If you have to keep a 6th, maybe Chase Winovich, maybe Derek Rivers. If they go 5-5 with the tackles and the ends, that seems like the most likely thing. I get to work in the morning, love the content, sub into the website in the morning, eat good, sleep good, be good. Devin, appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thank you. The website he's talking about is, we appreciate a subscription here on YouTube, obviously. The website that he's talking about is Houston Football. There's a link in the description. It's the website where I do all my writing. And we have free subscriptions. We have paid subscriptions. Paid subscription gets you everything. It's $7 a month. I will make it worth your while. I promise you will feel like you get the value of $7 a month. I promise you. Off-season trade free agency. I think if Mike Evans is there, you'll get Mike Evans. Larry Roundtree, and guess why they picked him up? Another running back. Maybe a guy they like for the practice squad. I don't believe he's going to be on the main roster. Is there any Texan worth drafting in a full PPR fantasy league? Tank, Schultz. If Schultz isn't a top 10 tight end this year, I'd be shocked. I would be shocked. It ran its course. We took some opportunities that we all had, and we got this going on now. Well, we all got what we got going on now. Over under 5.5 sacks for Anderson or 2 interceptions for Stingley. I can't smash the over any harder on this. I mean, over on both of these. Let's see here. I'm just doing a little looky-loo here. All right, some of the names that have been incredible as rookies from a sack number are what you would expect. Javon Curse, appropriately nicknamed the Freak. Alden Smith was incredible. Micah Parsons is one of the best defensive players I've seen in recent memory. Dwight Freeney was awesome. Reggie White's obviously one of the greatest to ever do it. But, Bradley Chubb got 12 sacks in 2018. Is it out of the question that Will Anderson could get to 9? Not at all. Not at all. Like, typically, you're pretty damn good if you get to 8, 9. I believe Will Anderson's pretty damn good. If I could bet on his number, I would keep betting on 8-ish. I'd bet on 8-ish. Roy, Tank, or CJ? You probably get better odds on Tank. JJ, appreciate you reading the Houston football emails that come out. www.houfootball.com. How do you think Adam Humphries will fare with the team, and why did Victor Bolden get cut and waived after a day? I don't know the Victor Bolden thing. That was strange. He's on the team. He practices. He's off the team. I mean, nobody's told me anything. He wasn't making the team, so I don't know. And Humphries has a practice squad chance, I would think. He's got a practice squad opportunity. He's not one of the 6 best wide receivers, though. I mean, he's not making it over Xavier Hutchinson or John Mechie. Jim, appreciate you checking in. Okay, Cody, love the channel and the Houston football site. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for checking that out. Thank you for checking out the website as well. What does Stingley have to prove to get national love? When he is on the field, he's a baller. I'll tell you what, for Derek Stingley to get national love, he just needs to be better than Sauce Gardner, which is tough because he was one of the best quarterbacks in football next year. But if he's better than Sauce Gardner this year, I bet you everybody talks about it, and I bet you I'm jumping in on Jake's YouTube channel, letting him know about it, baby. Letting him know. Horton made a couple plays this week after he got back from the injury. Couple, I think a tackle for a loss or 2 and had a pressure. So. The running back we picked up just a replacement for Valade for preseason. Yeah, the running back is just, I mean, he's probably just to fill out a in the preseason games here. JJ had 5.5 sacks as a rookie. Yeah, I feel like, did those all come like at the back end of the year? Man, I tell you what, 2011's it's been a long time since 2011. It's been a long time. Yeah, so JJ had 3.5 of his 5.5 sacks in the final 7 games of the year. Will Anderson's a far more highly touted player than JJ Watt was. Far more highly touted. So I would expect more than 5.5. Oh, Sean, won't make it to the game tomorrow, but looking forward to Indy on the broadcast. Indy's been fantastic in the preseason here. Just been one game, but he's been awesome. Also, I'm hyped that Trillburger's one section over on mine. Yes. We got the Trillburger there. Rocket, how much will the starters play tomorrow? Beginning of the video, we got that for you. Just check it out. Just go back to the beginning. We talked about that for the first 20 or 30 minutes or so. All right. Let's wrap it up there. One more from Almighty Royal. How's Mechie stock so far against other competition? Haven't really heard much. Hadn't been much to report recently, to be honest with you. Hadn't been much to report. Money flow. Who do you think will have the most receiving yards this season on the team? If I had to bet, I'd say Tank. If I had to bet, I would say Tank. JJ, appreciate you. Yes, if you haven't hit the like button, I would certainly appreciate you hitting the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, I would appreciate you subscribing. A little housekeeping. We'll get you information on the preseason. We'll get you information on the before the season meetup that we're trying to put together. That'll be coming on a future live stream. Be looking for that in the comments and the details of the videos. Houston football will have a ton of stuff from the game tomorrow. Hoping to do some videos coming out of the game tomorrow as well. So stick around, stay tuned to the channel, to the Houston football website as well. And we'll get another raffle going here probably after the Saints game, before the Ravens game. So we'll do another raffle. And let's see, do I have any more housekeeping? I think that's it. I think that's it from a housekeeping standpoint. So that's where we are. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Just chit-chatting and BSing. I mean, we shot the breeze here with the questions for, almost 90 minutes here. I think is when we were doing questions. So Ayad knows how we finish this sucker. All right. It's my charge for you. I would like, just plain Dave, you're getting in here at the end. Cougs greater than Tech. Have a good night. Remember, eat good, sleep good, be good. Just plain Dave, thank you so much. You're very generous. You're very kind with the super chats and the interaction. Cougs greater than Tech at hotel restaurant management degrees. And that's it. But as just plain Dave says it, we finish all the live streams the same way. It's my charge to you. I expect you to do all these things, but I also hope these things for you and all your loved ones. I hope that you eat good, sleep good, and be good. And we will talk Texans again soon. And I can't wait until we talk Texans again.